You're most welcome to our free online school, SkillBridge Institute. This time around, we'll be discussing about project triple constraints. So these are the three things that affects the quality of a project. Constraint number one is known as scope. So this is the work that is supposed to be done to accomplish a particular project. Scope creep, it is a challenge associated with scope. This one may cause delays of a project and raise the cost of a project. Time is a next constraint. Here we're simply talking of deadlines of a project. Task delays can be a challenge associated with time. This one may affect deadlines as well as the quality of a project. Cost is the last constraint. So we're talking of finances of a project. Running out of budget is a challenge associated with cost. This one may come due to poor planning as well as the things that you didn't expect but they have come into your project. Project management triangle. This is the same as triple constraints. Cost, scope, as well as time. So these three things, they affect the quality of a project. If the scope of a project has increased, you need to know that the cost as well as the deadlines, which is time, is also supposed to increase. If you want to shorten project duration, cost of that project is supposed to increase. Strategies for managing scope. One, you should be able to use project charter, which aligns with the stakeholders. From there, follow the work breakdown structure where all tasks are properly outlined. You should be able to control the work that is coming into your project but was not initially approved. Stakeholders must be properly engaged on all the tasks which you are doing in a project. Strategies for managing time. Use Gantt charts as well as network diagrams, because on Gantt charts, timelines or deadlines are properly outlined, and on the network diagrams, you are able to follow the critical path, which gives you the minimum amount of time which you can spend on a project. When you're setting your deadlines, you should be able to put some additional time. So whenever there are some delays, that additional time is going to cover you. Focus on work that is found on the critical path, because that one is going to give you minimum amount of days that you're going to spend on a project. You should be able to monitor the progress of your project using softwares like Asana, Trello, Microsoft Project. There should be good communication on whatever is happening with the team members on a project. Strategies for managing cost. Use a well-detailed budget which has got contingency of about 5 to 10%. You should be monitoring how you're spending your budget using softwares which we have explained, Trello and others. Have that capacity of controlling how you are spending your resources so that you can be able to minimize the cost of a project. Negotiate with the vendors whenever you are buying materials so that those materials can be bought at least a lower cost. Reallocate funds. So let's say in a project, some areas they require additional funds. What you can do is that you can just look within your project some areas where you can get funds and add those funds on those other critical areas. Balancing the triple constraints. So you can do this by deciding whether scope, time, as well as cost is most critical. From there, you should be able to communicate trade-offs. So let's say in some areas in your project, there is need for some additional fund, for some additional resources. You can just look within your project areas where you can get some resources and add those resources on those areas. So those are known as trade-offs. If you have done trade-offs, you should be able to communicate them to the stakeholders as well as tell them the impact which that one is going to have on that project. Have the capacity of managing the risks which are associated with your project. Use technologies and use the softwares whenever you are managing scope, time, as well as cost. Let's look at this case study. So you as a project manager, you have a fixed budget, but a client says on the project you are doing, you should add a certain feature. So what can you do as a project manager? What you're supposed to do is the following. You should evaluate within your project an area where you can get some resources and add those particular resources on a thing which your client is saying you should put into your project or you should add in your project. So that is what you should do. So if you do that one, you see that you're going to stay within your budget, and at the same time, the quality of your project is going to be maintained. So that is how you can sort that particular scenario. Thank you so much. See you in the next lesson.